Hello and welcome back to Visiting Dugout, a Fans for Sports Network production. I am Chrystal O'Keefe. Today I have a brand new guest on. We have not talked to Stephanie previously. So, hello, Stephanie, please feel free to introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Stephanie, and I live in Denver, Colorado. Um, I grew up in Colorado Springs, which is the second largest city just south of Denver, and I've been a Rockies fan since they came to Colorado when I was about 10. And as I was telling Crystal earlier, I'm also a White Sox fan, so it's been a really tough few years for me as a fan. But I still watch a lot of games and commiserate with other people who are fans of my teams.
Yeah, it's been brutal few seasons on both ends. Really, the Rockies weren't necessarily great last year either. So
No, they still lost over 100 games.
tough, tough times. So let's get into this. What is new, if anything, with the Rockies right now?
June has been an improvement. Um, the Rockies won their 10th game of the season on June 2nd. And so they're at 19 wins now. So, comparatively from the first 2 months, they're doing better, but they're still really bad. And unlike the person on the Dodgers podcast who said, well, things would have to get really bad for the Dodgers to miss the playoffs. No one sees the Rockies coming back to any sort of um, closeness to the postseason. So we're not planning for that. But things have gone marginally better. Um, they've fired longtime manager Bud Black, and Warren Schaefer is our new manager. He has done well in other coaching and managing positions. He was with our AAA team for a while, and then he's been kind of in the organization for a while in various positions. He just was earned his first ejection as a manager on Sunday, um, and the Rockies actually won their first extra innings games on Sunday. So I think I counted 5 games they played extra innings this year, and have only won one, and that was Sunday. So, I don't know that things are looking up, but things have been better.
No, that's fair. I know they are even further back than the White Sox were last season for that on pace to break the very bad record.
Yeah.
So that was what, August when the White Sox hit the 121 mark. I covered that game. I
Yeah.
was on recap duty. I made it the meanest, most sarcastic, just bitchiest recap of all time, I think. I was like, I'm so done. I hate this team right now. Um, so, where they're sitting, I mean, do you see them breaking that 121 loss record, and especially before the White Sox did in August of last year?
I think if they have one chance to do something, it's that. um, they're not a good team. Uh, Even if they improve marginally, they're still not a good team. And I think it would be exciting for them to be so bad that maybe it could be a wake up call. I don't know that it will be with the Monforts, our owners, but um, they are listening to fans talk about how bad it is, and they are fans themselves. And there are some people in the Rockies fan base that believe shame is the only thing that's going to get the Monforts to change anything. I don't think they're selling the team anywhere. But
No.
yeah, I think that could be a claim to fame. I mean, it would be the Rockies all the way being the worst until the next one comes wrong. And, that could be the Rockies or the White Sox again. Who knows?
Mhm.
Maybe they're just going to trade positions back and forth.
Yeah, I was about to say, nothing seems to change, at least nothing drastic seems to change for either team. We just saw it with the White Sox. Yeah, we have a new manager, and Will Venable is fine. I have no like actual qualms with that man. He's doing the best he can with a terrible situation.
Yes.
And and I've said this before, and maybe you've noticed it too, like the vibes are a lot better on the south side of Chicago. I mean, last year we kind of got that like infamous Miguel Vargas pouting in the corner that turned into a meme that I think use. It's still on my phone.
Yes.
To him, completely changing his swing and hitting balls again, and like the team itself are better off than they were last year. But as someone who has seen, saw this before with a team that you root for and are seeing it again this year with a team, are you noticing anything different, between the two and how it got to this point? Or does it just feel like deja vu?
Yeah, probably more deja vu. It's like different players, it's a different manager, it's a different city, but it's the same thing where it's it's players that they have and they're doing the best they can, we hope. I do think that I've seen, like you were just talking about, like the vibe does seem a little more different um, when you see the guys in the dugout. After their first series win on the road, they swept Miami. It was the first time they swept since sometime last year. I forgot the date. Um, but I think it'd been over a year since they'd won a series and swept on the road. Um, and the outfield, the three guys at the end of the game just like hugged each other, and it was like you don't see that. I've seen it from Rockies when they had good seasons, but I haven't seen that kind of camaraderie in a really long time. So that was good to see. Um, when they talk to the guys, uh, they seem more positive. When I read about Bud Black being fired, like the guys like him, and most of the guys are who have been with the Rockies a long time and all of their career. They are really attached to Bud Black, and like I don't think he's a bad guy, but he was not doing anything that was helping the players be better than they were. Um, I, we don't have anyone who is hitting over 300 still, and we do have some bright spots. And I think we're seeing more of the young players that I think fans are interested in seeing at the major league level. But it's like they haven't, it's like, we're bad. Why don't we just bring up these guys and see what they can do? Because it's not going to hurt us in our playoff chances that don't exist. Um, so I think we are seeing more time for those younger players, which is good. Because the last couple of years it's like, oh yeah, we've got these veteran guys that we've signed to like uh, some of them just a couple year contract. Then there's the Chris Bryant folly, but like they've been the Rockies will sign people and spend money. It's just not always working out for them, and so there's that problem with the farm system too. Is like if you're not developing people who are good, what's your team going to look like at the major league level too? But if we don't give those guys a chance, there's no chance for them to get experience and be better in the future either. So I'm hopeful because we are seeing them call up people. Last night, they called up Yanquiel Fernandez, and he's been a player that I've been reading about, and he's been having a pretty good year and had a really terrific June. So I'm hopeful that these will keep happening and we'll just kind of see what these people can do.
So let's take that back to the off season and kind of how you would rate how the Rockies did. I mean, were there spots that desperately needed something and like desperately just needed to be filled that were filled, or do you think that there was a lot more they could have done? I mean, I feel like they kind of braced themselves to not have a good season anyway after last year. They're very much in like this rebuild mode. So do you feel
Yes.
like they started to rebuild, or do you think they just left too much off the table still?
Um, I was gonna pull up like what their transactions were because I don't remember any. There really weren't like they didn't do much in the off season, which is kind of like par for the course. I feel
Yeah.
like we'll have like one splashy person, Chris Bryant. I'm going to talk about him a lot because we don't know where
No,
he is. He
he's
has back
perfect
issues,
example.
but he's like the splashy guy that we got a few years ago who hasn't worked out, and that's kind of like what the Rockies do. So I kind of don't want them to make big off-season moves like that. I would like to see them develop more, but the scouting is also an issue. I think there are plays to be made and they don't make them, but that's often more at the end of the season where it's like the trade deadline is coming. People could be interested in these players and they just don't do anything, and then the players leave. And so it's like they don't get anything from it that way either. So we've had a lot of trades like that that we're not getting anything back. We're just giving up the players. So, like, we've seen a couple of players to the Yankees and the Nolan Arenado trade. Like, we paid them to take our best player because he was reportedly having issues with the front office. And this was after he had signed a big contract extension.
Hmm.
And it's like, so he was professing that he wanted to be here, but was saying, you guys aren't doing anything to support me, and wanted out at that point. So I don't, I'm not sure what the solution is, but what they have been doing is very consistent with them and doesn't seem to change. Um, so I think this offseason was a reflection of that as well. So we do have a couple of guys that came in that have been doing well, like Mickey Moniak, um, Tyler Freeman. Um, like there are players that are on the slightly younger side than Chris Bryant, but they have they have made an impact, and like they're not terrible players, but um, there's not a whole lot to work with still, I think.
I had to double check Chris Bryant's age before I called him old. He is still technically younger than I am, but in baseball terms, yeah, he's ancient and he's been injured.
Yeah,
And
he's been injured the entire time he's been a Rocky, and like I've had back injuries, and I know that he has back issues, and like I feel bad for the guy, but it's not good for anyone. Find him a job in the front office if
yeah,
he's into that. I, I just felt bad for him to try to recover for that. Like, save yourself. You're young in the scheme of life. Focus on being able to exist and hopefully have less pain in your life than having to, go and out and play as frequently as I know that he would like to.
yeah, we have Chris Bryant and I. We both have like the same thing, the degenerative disc disease. So like your
Oh,
discs in the back of your neck and leading down to your back are disintegrating basically, and just me existing as a person that that causes chronic pain throughout my life. I
yeah,
could never in a million years imagine going out and playing, let's say, 140 games a season. I
yeah.
couldn't imagine playing 20 games a season with that. So I feel for him, and I know the whole kind of reason behind going to the Rockies was that he was going to be closer to his family because he's from what, Vegas, I think. I feel for the guy. I
I mean, he
love.
got some money for it.
Yeah, man. I feel for him on the pain front. I know how rough that is.
Totally. Like, your back hurts, nothing feels good. Um, so it's like okay, how, you know, there's no solution. He's not going to be playing for the Rockies. So,
Yeah.
um, it's like people talk about him like he's kind of like the ghost. And so it's like, is there a Chris Bryant sighting?
Yeah.
um, and it's like I kind of make it like a distraction for myself, but I know that realistically he's not going to be like the savior of the Rockies, and we knew that when he was signed, and we were all kind of like, huh? um, he was good for the Cubs, and he was kind of uh, at the time that he signed was kind of on the down end of his career. So it's
Mhm.
kind of like understandable. The Rockies were like, oh yeah, Chris Bryant, he was great with the Cubs. Let's sign him. and um, and so there's there's always like the question with Rockies fans and people that cover the Rockies is like, well, the Monforts don't want to spend the money. So I don't think it's that they don't want to. I think they don't spend it wisely. And
Whereas
that
the White
their
Sox
play is a
don't.
reflection of that.
Yeah. So obviously, I feel like I already know your answer. This is kind of where I'm asking, like, how are you feeling? Just, we're halfway through the season already. They're on a downward spiral. The White Sox are on a downward spiral. We're both kind of just in this grim state. But, I mean, do you have any optimism that there is any turnaround in this season, or have you just kind of braced yourself for record breaking losing season?
I don't think there's going to be a turnaround that's going to be uh, something of note. I think we can see improvement just overall, but it's not going to be anything that affects the overall season. They're over 30 games back in the division, and it's only a matter of time before the wild card is officially rolled out. But I don't think there's nothing in this season that can be saved. However, I think they can play some of these young guys, um, bring them up. Anyone that they're really considering in the minor leagues, bring them up, see what happens. Like let them play. Um, the first couple of months of this season, it's like you brought up Amador, one of our top prospects, and he rode the bench behind veterans that they that they brought in,
Of
and it's
course.
like, why is he up here? He's not getting any playing time, and he's just sitting there. So if you know what's what's kind of like what's the point of what are you doing? So if you get the young guys up, you let them play, you can see how they're going to be in future years. Give them a chance, give them some experience. But we're playing the long game here and definitely not looking to save the season. So I definitely know that there are friends of mine who are like, yes, let's get the Rockies to the worst overall season ever. And there's some part of me that kind of like watching the White Sox last year, it was like, when are they going to do it? and like I watched some of those games where it's like they're really close. Are they gonna drop another game? And it's painful, but also you can laugh about it because it's so bad. So we'll see what they end up doing. But I don't think this season is going to be salvaged in any sort of respect. Even if they don't break the losing record, they're still going to be the worst team in baseball by
Right.
the end of the season.
So, on a positive note, every team has to send an all star to the all star game. Who on the Rockies do you think will end up representing the team?
Well, I would like to see Hunter Goodman go. However, I think he's about to be on the IL,
Oh no.
and he's our best player. He's leading the Rockies in pretty much every hitting category, and they called up Fernandez today or last night, I guess, and they also called up um, what is his name, Austin Nola, I think, uh, who's a catcher. And so that sounds like Hunter Goodman might be out for a couple of games. So I would really like to see him go and experience that because he's been the best Rocky. And if you're going to send a good, you know, the best of your team, he might be it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Another person I would think about is Jake Bird, who's been like our star middle reliever. He has 10 holds. And if you consider the Rockies have won 19 games, that's pretty good, 10
Yeah.
holds. Um, he also has, I think, 3 wins, which matches our 2 best pitchers at 3 wins.
Oh my
So,
God.
um, uh, Rockies pitching is always an interesting conundrum. Stardust will be good and the bullpen will be bad, and they can't seem to connect the two together. But Jake Bird has been pretty solid this year, and there have been a couple other bright spots. Like Victor Vodnik was pretty solid last year as a reliever. He's been injured this season, but he's back and he's been looking pretty good too. So, you know, part of it winning games for the Rockies is like get a good start from your pitcher and get the bullpen to do their job. Um, and hopefully the hits on the other side, that's important too. But the run differential, I think the Rockies are last place in that in the major leagues, and so that doesn't help either. But Jake Bird could be another person that I would say on the best of the worst list for the Rockies.
Well, we're going to take a very quick break, and then we will come back and we will talk about how this somebody has to win it series will go.
Yes.
Okay, welcome back. So we're a little early, so we don't quite have pitching matchups just yet. Story of my life. I
looked at those too. They weren't there.
Yeah, I have 90 million things to do, so sometimes we just can't record like the day before. But what can we expect to see from Rockies pitching in general?
So Marquez just pitched Sunday, so I think we'll see him at some point this weekend. And I had, let's see, where are they? I had it pulled up, but now it's gone.
Okay.
So I think, well, we have Freeman or Freeland is going to be back from the injured list, and he's playing in the Astro series. So we'll probably see Marquez, Senzatella. Marquez pitched one of his best games on Sunday, and so I hope that that continues. He's kind of struggled coming back from surgery, and so has Senzatella. So both of them, who are our top pitchers a couple of years ago, were out most of last year and part of this season. And so just getting them feeling like themselves again has been a big part of their strategy. But he looked really good. The Rockies ended up winning on Sunday. Senzatella has been kind of like mismatched. He will get a couple, and Marquez has had this issue as well. Like they've had good starts, and the Rockies can't hit. So, or the bullpen blows it. So, the bullpen has been, fairly solid recently. So if we can get a good start from our starters, I think that, and the Rockies can score some runs. It is Coors Field. People tend to score runs. But I think those will be interesting matchups to see against the White Sox.
So my cousin is also in Colorado, and now that she is done, she just earned her doctorate from a school there. I'm a bad cousin. I can't name it. I have a funny feeling she's going to go to these games just to make fun of me. Jokes on her, though. It just reminded me that you reminded me because it is at Coors Field, and I completely forgot that fact until this moment. So Lauren, you don't listen to this, but please don't make fun of my team while you're there.
I actually love when the Rockies are playing the White Sox because then I'm happy that one of my team wins. And especially this year and the last couple years, it's like, oh, one of them might have a chance. Somebody
Yeah.
has to win the game. So, what do you think in the Battle of the Bad? Is it going to be a sweep or is it going to be a three uh, or a 2-1 split?
There's no way there will be a sweep. It'll definitely be a split because I mean we've seen both of these teams play horrific teams and lose painfully, and then we've seen these teams play really good teams and win like 12-1. So, and again, that's kind of why I love baseball so much, is that it is just so weird and so random. So
Yeah.
there's no way that either teams are going to be able to pull off a sweep, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think it will be a sweep either.
I just
And I
watched. I was
but I can't tell who's gonna actually make that series win.
that's the thing. I was just at some of the Giants White Sox series, and I go in expecting the Giants to sweep, to be really good. They win that very first game, and then naturally the game I am like in attendance to, the Giants win, and then the White Sox pick up the other two, and I'm like, I don't know how that happened, honestly. So the Giants are pretty good. That was one of the teams where I was like, I'm glad the A team will win because I like both of these teams enough. That's how I am with the White Sox and Mets. Like you said, you're just happy that one of your teams will win a game,
Yeah.
but I'm not even gonna lie, I would not be surprised if Colorado gets the two wins.
They
Just
haven't been great at home. Like that has been when they've had good years is like they have a very strong presence at home
mhm.
and terrible record on the road. And so uh, it's a little different the last few years where they've had kind of a more even record between home and road. Um, and there was even a year a few years ago that was like their record, their road record was one of the best they'd ever had in the history of the Rockies, and um, and that was saying something because we have a very strong division that we play, so we have to go play in difficult places against good teams. Um, but yeah, like the Coors Field magic isn't necessarily the phrase I use, but the Coors Field madness sometimes does happen for either team.
So, as far as players go, who on the Rockies team do you think could be the biggest threat for the White Sox? Just kind of a pain in their thorn or pain in their side.
Um, it could be one of our starting pitchers if they come out with a good game. Um, like there have been a couple times where pitchers are just mowing them down, and then they get to like the sixth inning and they might give up a run.
Hmm.
And then the bullpen game comes in and or the Rockies haven't scored, and so it's not it's not going to be a win if you don't score. But um, the pitchers have a potential to be good. Um, and then Tyler Freeman has been pretty solid recently. Sounds like Hunter Goodman will not be playing, but I'm very interested to see Fernandez against Rockies, or in this Astros series. I think they're playing next, and then White Sox as his first week. So it'd be pretty cool to see what he does. I've read that he's like primarily a right fielder because he's not great at fielding, but he does field that position well, and he has a very strong throwing arm. So if we see White Sox hitting it out into the outfield, I would like to see some action throwing it back in. Um, we have some players that can do that, like Brenton Doyle. He plays mostly center field, and he has a really good throwing arm too. So like, I've actually been more interested in seeing the fielders than the hitters because they actually make more excitement on that side and trying to get outs than sometimes we see on the base paths. So definitely Fernandez seeing what he does. If he's in the lineup, I would expect, since they called him up, that he's going to be playing um, at some point, if not all games. Then seeing his home debut at Coors Field would be pretty special.
It'll be fun because both teams have such a young presence right now. The White Sox have made a ton of call ups, and
Yeah.
I've been lucky to see Kyle Teal a few times now, and he's, just as fun in person. And then you've got Chase, who is just a base path
Yeah.
menace, who
His
I
feathery
just
hair
adore.
too when he runs.
I,
And then
I,
he just stands up with a big grin on his face. I've really
yeah,
enjoyed watching him play.
my husband, who has mostly checked out of White Sox baseball, I can't really say that I blame him, but he saw a picture of Chase when he first came up, and he was like, if you told me he was somehow like AJ's nephew, I would believe you.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
I've said it to other people, and they're like, I can't unsee AJ and like his mannerisms, the hair, that's like the face, everything. They're like, I can't unsee it now. I was like, well, I'm very sorry. I still love him. He's not as much of a punk as AJ was, but I still love him. So, tying into, especially with your pitching, and that could very well just be the answer, but what are the keys for the Rockies to win a series against the White Sox?
limit hits. Uh, Try to not give up the long ball with runners on base, um, and you know, getting runs of your own. So stringing some hits together, and um, we love to see tacos here, which is when they score 7 runs, and even when they lose, sometimes they get tacos. But uh, it would be nice to see them put together a good starting pitching, um, and then getting some runs to get run support to support that pitching, to close it and close out the game, um, by again limiting those long outfield hits. Because even if you don't get a home run, if you get it into the outfield, it's large out there, and um, even with good fielders who can get the ball back in quickly, a single can turn into a double pretty quickly, and then you have a
Mhm.
person in scoring position. If you drop another one out there, they're probably coming home. So um, taking advantage of your own outfield, and just kind of seeing where you can get hits and runs in to support your pitchers, because I really think the pitchers that we have probably going this weekend, these are people that have been here and know Coors Field, and even when they do give up runs, they can manage it out if they have support for from the offense.
So, on the other hand, as far as the series goes, what kind of fears do you have coming in? Again, you're facing the White Sox, so normally people are like, you're silly, Chrystal. I have no fears. We're going to win every game. But as a team who is sitting, at the bottom of the barrel with the White Sox, what kind of fears do you have heading into this series?
Um, that the White Sox will actually score runs,
Yeah.
and and I mean they could be blowout wins
Hmm.
for for the for the White Sox. Um, I feel like the White Sox do kind of have that capability, that they can get some hits and they can get something going, and they have pitchers that can keep the count down and go pretty deep. So um, definitely just seeing. I don't know. It could be to an advantage either way, that if everyone's hitting really well, and it's going to probably be hot, so the ball could be flying this weekend. So, you know, who's going to come out on top might be just who's able to limit the damage enough on the pitching side. Um, the hitting is kind of hit or miss, I think, for both teams. So might come down to pitching. But we might see blowouts on either side.
Sure. And I mean, right now, people like Andrew Benintendi and, as I mentioned earlier, Miguel Vargas are hitting the ball a lot more. And
Yeah,
sweet little Kyle Teal is like hitting doubles like nobody's business. So, yeah, it could, it could,
that will serve him well at Coors Field. That was like Todd Helton.
yes.
Get a double, Todd Helton.
That is what Kyle has turned into, and I love it. I can't complain. So, moving away from our teams, we'll rid ourselves of this mid off and talk about just some baseball in general. What are you, seeing that you're liking, hating, hot takes? This is just kind of your chance to chat about baseball in general.
I mean, my fantasy baseball team is doing really well,
Good.
despite my having. So we our family league, I will say, is we're we're called the Clueless League, and so people do auto drafts, and most people don't even update their drafts. Um, so your team is what you get based on ESPN ratings. And I was like, man, I have Nolan Arenado on my team. Should I just drop him or should I try to trade him? And he hasn't been great for me. But I do have Max Muncy, Dodgers variety coming on strong. And my fantasy pitching has done very well. So that's kind of how I've been viewing baseball this year. To escape the Rockies is to just be kind of watching what my fantasy team is doing. And I've watched a couple of games on MLB Network because my players are playing there. And so I probably have watched more of a variety of games than I usually do beyond Rockies and White Sox. And I have MLB Network primarily for White Sox. But
Yeah, because you're not in the blackout territory for it.
yeah, and we get thankfully they made a deal that we got Rockies on regular TV again just before the season started. So we have Rockies TV. It's only on like I think it's half an hour before the game and half an hour after, and then it's just like a screen the rest of the time, which is interesting.
It's
Um,
gone.
but yeah, my fantasy team, I have some Dodgers on there. Um, and I have Dylan Cease, who hasn't been terribly good. Um, but Scooball
Yeah.
is on my team, and I like watching uh, Tigers games because of Jason Benetti, and so I've
Of
watched
course.
several Tigers games, and I've seen a couple of his starts, and he's fun to watch. Tigers are fun to watch too, honestly. Um, they're better than the White Sox, which is sad. So
Oh yeah. My mother-in-law has MLB TV so that she can still listen to Jason because, according to her and I think every other person on this planet, the White Sox really fumbled the bag with letting
yep,
Jason go. So she will watch Tigers games just so that she can still listen to Jason because that's how much we all miss him.
yes.
So I get it. Yeah, the Tigers have been so much fun, and I'm in
Is it
such
the
close
Benetti
proximity to
effect?
Detroit.
Like
Yeah,
the White
maybe
Sox
he'll
have
get a
been
ring.
super bad since Jason Benetti has moved over to the Tigers, and the Tigers have been pretty good.
Maybe he rightfully so cursed the White Sox.
Yeah, I mean they're
I
cursed
can't
bowl,
blame
so I don't know what happened to the Rockies. I think they've just always been bad.
them. That's fair.
At least I said to my dad, who grew up a White Sox fan and made me a White Sox fan, uh, at least we saw the White Sox win a World Series in our lifetime.
Yeah, I have been almost bitter about that because they won the World Series the year I graduated high school and was going into college. And I got my very recent reunion reminder of, oh, check out, be sure to check your mail for a save the date for 20th high school reunion. And I was like, I don't want to think about this. And I'm also just really bitter because the White Sox have been so bad for 20 years now.
Yeah.
The last time they were super good was that 2020 or 2005 year. So yeah, I've been really bitter about that recently. And the White Sox, I don't know if you paid any attention to like their promotional schedules, but it's all kind of just laser focused on, remember 20 years ago when we won the World Series and we have done nothing since? Do you remember that? Because we're going to give you 75 bobbleheads of players who are on that team and nothing else.
Uh, Thanks for the reminder, White Sox.
You're like, hey, we've got this statue from someone that was on this team when we were good. So come watch that be unveiled. So yeah, that's all they've been doing, and I don't really like to think about it at all.
That reminded me of one of the more recent promotions that the Rockies had, which was a Ryan meetup at Coors Field. And
Oh,
we were watching on TV, and it was probably one of the most entertaining games to watch on TV this year. And they were doing like all Ryan lineups, like who would you have on your all Ryan all star teams, and um, the I don't know if they broke the record, but they were trying to break the record for the most Ryans in one location.
mm-hmm.
And so they had interviews with Ryans, and they showed the people in the Ryan section, and it looked like a blast. um, but they they don't have a World Series to
Yeah.
celebrate, so there is that. But that would be a very painful reminder. I definitely could see that.
I do have a very wonderful Rockies giveaway. I have the Chris Bryant Jedi bobblehead.
I have that as
Again,
well.
my
Yes.
cousin that lives there, I said, hey, I will pay the price of admission for you if you get me that bobblehead and send it my way. She was like, all right, deal. So I do have that. I'm not in my office where normally you could see it in the background, but it was beautiful.
Yeah, and I do have a Baba box up there. It looks like it's Willeen Rosario. And we usually get two, and then sometimes we will hand one off to people, but I guess nobody wanted Baby Bull except for us. But actually, it was good that we had some doubles because we had a catastrophe last fall where our base, we have a home plate. We were married at Coors Field at home plate, and so we bought a base so that people could sign it at our wedding, and it hung above our bobbleheads, and it smashed a couple of Todd Heltons
Oh no.
and a Charlie Blackman. However, we had replacements for both of them, so
Good.
Todd was pretty mangled, and it was the like Todd doing his arm raised at first base, recording the final out uh, in 2007.
I
Uh,
did not realize that you got married there.
yes.
We didn't have a traditional reception. We just splurged for phenomenal seats for a White Sox game. So I went in my wedding dress still to Sox Park, and they lost. It was a crosstown series, and they lost, and it is what it is. But I love that we shared our special days with these teams.
But we're both big Rockies fans for mostly worse, but sometimes better. We love baseball, so it was the perfect place to do that. However, it was the trade deadline day, and we didn't think about that when we recorded the day, and they traded away Ubaldo Jimenez on our
Oh
wedding day,
no.
and I was devastated. And people kept telling me the entire reception, like, Stephanie, did you see that you traded Ubaldo? And I was like, yes, thank you.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But
That
Rocky,
would
I
be
mean,
sad.
that's part of the reason Rockies are a special place in my heart. Like they've always been my team since they were in existence. But um, yeah, we celebrate an anniversary there as well.
I don't think I could get my husband to go back and celebrate our anniversary at a White Sox game anymore. He's so
Oh,
bitter, but the thought that counts.
well, maybe the next time the Rockies come to town, they should be there next year. So
It's true.
you
It's
can
true.
say, hey, maybe they'll actually win.
Maybe he did get to see. He finally saw a win for the first time in 9 years. He doesn't go to a ton of games anymore. Usually I will go and meet up with friends or something to that effect. So he has not been to a ton of games, but the ones in person, it had been 9 years since he saw a win. So he went to one game and it was like a Friday night because I was like, I want to see these new jerseys. Kyle Teal has just been called up. Like I need to, and they were at the time they were like 4-0 in those new City Connect jerseys, and I was like, so maybe they'll win. This could be cool, and they did win, and he had a great time. And then he was asking, on the train, he was like, do you remember if they won on your birthday that one year? I think they were playing the Astros, and I was like, I don't remember. That was a couple years ago, and he was like looking up old scores from that year, and he was like, no. So that was the first one I saw in 9 years, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry that I make you sit through these games with me. And then we go back on my birthday, and then they lose. So he was like, well, it was not meant to be. I shouldn't have came. And I was like, well, I'm very sorry that I put you through this pain as a White Sox fan, but we made
I,
it a big part of our personalities for a very long time.
yeah, I definitely have made a choice to not go to as many games because it is painful to watch them lose in horrendous ways.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we used to go to at least 10 to 20 games a season. And I've been to 3 this year, and I've seen 2 wins.
Look at
So
you.
I have a winning record. It's my friend Diane and I. We've gone to a couple of Thursday wins, um, and we've also said to each other we should go more because we're apparently lucky. We've both been to a game without each other, which the Rockies have lost. Um,
So you have to go together.
but it still is like difficult to be like, do I want to pay that much money when they are probably going to lose? But I
Mm-hmm.
am going to the Sunday game um, for the White Sox.
Good.
Being July 4th weekend, I have family party obligations on the 4th of July, but we are going with my dad, who, again, is the reason I was brought up a White Sox fan. Um, he's from Northern Illinois, and there was no baseball team here when he moved here in the 70s. And so
Right.
we would watch some Cubs games, but we'd try to find the White Sox on TV growing up. And so going with him and my husband, and um, we're going to be happy whoever wins on Sunday.
Well, that's good. Well, that's what I've got for you. So thank you so much for coming on
Thanks for the
and
conversation
chatting.
about 2 bad
Yeah,
teams.
I'm too bad to. I'm not used to being able to commiserate in pain with someone else because normally everyone I talk to, their teams are just so much better. But yeah, this was fun. Thank you so much. Obviously, best of luck in this
Thank you.
series, and I hope you have a good time on Sunday. Hopefully, at least one of the teams will score a lot of home runs. That's
Yeah.
always my like. If I want both teams to have fun, I just want one team to also just score a bunch of home runs.
I I like pitching, and so it would be cool to see like a pitcher's duel. But
They are fun in
it is
person.
fun to see one of your teams score lots of runs too.
All right.
So
Well, thank
may the best of the worst teams win this weekend.
you. Yes. Thank you. And just please let people know where they can find you.
Well, thank you.